Hello everyone, and welcome to Lesson 6 in Sharing. This is on printing and exporting. Really quickly, I wanted to show the exporting, which would be File, Download. And you can do that in Microsoft Excel. You have Open Document, PDF, or Portable Document format, which would be close to printing, kind of give you that layout. There's web page, comma separated, tab separated as your main download ones. Now, just be aware, depending on which version you choose, it might change some things. For example, with the comma separated value, that can only allow text. So all formulas will be removed. And in the workbook, it would only do whatever sheet you are on. So in this case, the printing sheet, not any of the other ones. So if you pick them, just make sure that you know what it's going to look like before you try to upload it to something or use it. Same for Microsoft Excel. There might be some formulas that don't actually work with it. So you'll have to kind of play around and make sure that what you are using will be in the format and allow for what you need. The next part, and what we're going to primarily focus on in this video, will be print. You can go to File and down to Print, or you can do Command or Control P to open the print dialog. Now, in this, you can see that it has this table, some blank, has this other table, and then this document. It's basically has a normal specific amount of data it can show if it's in this portrait level. For example, if I go back here and you can see that you can't see these projected, if I make this way bigger, and this won't look very great, here you can see this table gets cut off, and then here's the second part. And then now here's this, and it just kind of shows as much information as it can, and it doesn't account for the data and what you're wanting. And that's where changing some of the settings to get it to look exactly as you want it to will be useful. And so here we're going to take a look at that. Now, first thing is you have to make sure that you know what you're wanting and to show it as cleanly as you can. One thing I like to do for my data to make sure that I have it as cleanly as I can is to highlight the columns that I want and then double click one of the lines. What that does is it shows everything in those and stretches it out or reduces the size so that you can see all the data and it's as small as it can be. So whatever's the largest, which in this case is projected income, is going to be as large as it is. Similarly to the year, this one's there. So it'll show everything that it can. Note that if there is more row space that's not, you might need to also highlight that and double click, or you might need to go up to text wrapping and use wrap text. So that will just show if there's anything additional that's not being shown. I'm just going to push Control Z because this is what I would like it to look at. Now if I do Command P again, you can see that it's looking better, at least with this table here. This other data I might not want, or I might not want it in this way. And so you can rearrange some of this. Like you could, expand this and then kind of go through and print it and try again, because like that's a little bit better. And then try to get it to the exact size that you want. And while this could work, it could take some time. And so depending on what you're wanting with this, you could actually use Command A, which will select everything in that table, and then do Command P. When you do that, you can go from a current sheet. You could do the workbook, which would show everything in this entire, which I don't want to do in this case, or selected cells. So now I just have this table, and that might be all I want. And I can push next print and go from there. Other things that you can do if you're trying to get more data is you might be able to use a landscape. If you use a landscape, you can see that a little bit more information can be used in these columns. So maybe if you remove some of these and then print, go to landscape, you're starting to get a little bit more in one page. Again, you might need to just kind of work on that depending on how you want it to look. I wouldn't do that in this case. I would either print this portion and then this portion, or you can go into this and go a little bit deeper. What I mean by that is you can scale this. So you can go to landscape, you can scale to fit to width, and this would actually show everything on that one. If you do fit to height, you can see that everything up and down would be there, but not necessarily the columns. So you can also fit to the page, which means everything gets fit on that page. Now, again, you can see that there's kind of some white space here, and that's just solely to have everything on there. And so maybe you don't want that last little bit here. You could actually highlight M to B, or use this down to the last there, and then print, go to selected cells, and then fit to page. And there you would have everything. The landscape would give you a little bit more on this report. But again, that's looking a lot better than what it was beforehand. The next thing that we can look at is the margins. So you can narrow those, and that can give you a little bit more in one. You could have them wide. It just depends on how you're printing and the paper that you have. You just want to be cautious to not have anything, get cut off depending on some settings or the paper you're using. Some other formatting you can do is you can actually show grid lines if you want. This might help for, whoever is looking at this just to be able to see it a little bit better. You can show notes if there are any notes. You can show the page over. So this is just one, so it won't make a difference. You can also align these. So if you want it to the left or right, we're kind of using the entire page, so that's not going to make as much of a difference. Maybe if we just do this one, so Control A to pick the whole one, go to selected cells, show grid lines, and then like left, right, center, and just again, depending on how you want it, this would just go right in the center, and then maybe you want to add more graphics or put it into a PDF editor and work on some other things too. You can also use the header and footer to have page numbers, workbook titles, sheet name, current date, current time, to be able to tell a little bit more about where this data is coming from, what it might be from, how to be able to see these things. Now, going back to here, let's say that we have some more like technology, and we just have more rows coming here, so you'll have multiple. And I'm just going to copy this all the way down. So numbers aren't going to be exact, but here you can kind of see that it'll just continue down like this. And if we use the selected cells, this is where headers and footers might be a little bit more useful, repeating the frozen rows to actually show the top part of department, project, projected income, actual income, and so on. So the only thing with that is, since this is also showing at the top, it'll be there twice. So, you just have to be aware of those. And if you don't want to repeat them in that sense, what you'd have to do is start at 3 and then go down and not include that in your highlight. Then use the selected cells, header and footer, repeat frozen rows. And then since that wasn't selected, now that would be just one time for both of them there. Other portions here, we showed these. You might want edited custom fields. So you might want to have something else here, like a page number, the workbook title. You have the different date formats, or you could just put text. So maybe there's not some field there that you want to say like at report. And so then this will be there. So maybe you have a person's name, so you know who printed this report, who's using that, so on. Now, we've looked at most of the different options here. Outside of, there is one other thing that you can do. If you have a current sheet, you can do custom page breaks. So maybe in this one, when you go through, and I already had one, let's reset this. What you can do is this will show you where it's going to be broken off, and you can actually adjust this. So maybe you want page breaks to be by department. You can actually break these up to be there. You can have another one be here, so you'll have this be your first page, and then here the second. to be able to have the data be exactly where you want it to be. And let's see, let's try that. And so now it's going to go department, and each one will show its own department. And then at that last one, we'll show this here. We do have some blanks here, which is just because it will continue. Let's go back to that because it's showing these ones here. Confirm breaks. Well, cancel because we didn't change anything. So you'll have some blanks here, but you can always just remove those pages, or when you push next and print, only do the range up to page 6. Again, you can show grid lines if you want. You can have the departments. The header and footer is already here, so we're repeating frozen. But this is a very helpful way to be able to kind of split it up, even though this isn't really where it would naturally do it. And I'm going to remove grid lines. So again, totally up to you on how you're using this, but there are a lot of very helpful aspects of printing and being able to basically pull exactly what you need. Of course, like we looked at the previous one, you could move these into a Google Doc and then print it from there, as you have a little bit more customization on what's going where. But using these different options of the paper size, there's a print the current sheets, portrait and landscape, the margins, formatting, there's quite a few things that you can do with this as is. And so a lot of times you can just print from here. This is the last lesson in sharing. The next video will be on the challenge, and this will have 8 questions for you to answer. And it gives some situations, it gives some different options that you could do. And from there, this will just help you be able to use these lessons and what we've learned to be able to put it into some real life examples. What you'll do here is you will answer based off of the drop downs. And then when you are ready, you can push this plus button and it'll expand and show answers. So there is a note here in yours if you're making a copy and following along. And once when you push that, there is a visualization that will show if it is correct answers or incorrect based off of what I put in there. And feel free to explore that. It'll be in these grouped columns. So feel free to check that out if you want to see how I built that. And yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye now.